set up to make sure that anyone can observe our democratic meetings. Please therefore remember that this meeting can be watched at any time by anyone with a connection to the internet. There are subtitles via the YouTube broadcast. These are generated automatically by YouTube. These are not the responsibility of the council, nor can the council be responsible for their accuracy. There is a delay between the meeting and the broadcast of approximately 30 seconds. Webcasting officer, please can you confirm the broadcast is now running?
I can confirm that's not running, Emma.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Local Plan Subcommittee on Monday the 14th December 2020. Before we commence with the proceedings, I can confirm that the Council has adopted some basic etiquette rules for its remote meetings, and these are as follows. Please only speak when the Chairman invites you to do so. Members, please let the Chairman know that you wish to speak through the chat function. The Chairman will introduce speakers in the orders at which the request to speak has been made, unless there is a point of order at which we will give way. Please minimise all distractions while you are on the meeting. Members are asked to mute your microphone when you're not speaking and to consider turning off your video if you have interference on your connection to the meeting. Please bear in mind that there may be a slight lag between the speakers and other attendees hearing you. Presentation images and footage, if it is available for this meeting, would have been circulated in advance, but any need to share information, officers will share screens with all members of the committee. When referring to reports, please quote the relevant page and paragraph number. Members, there is no private business for tonight's meeting. However, please can I remind you, should there be a need to move into private session, it is your responsibility to make sure that your venue and connection is private. If you lose connection at any point in this meeting, please rejoin the meeting and I'd readmit you to the meeting. If your connections persist, please contact me by way of email. Please use the chat function for the purpose prescribed of requesting to speak or for a point of order. The chat function is subject to the access to information regimes of FOI, EIR. It's also subject to data protection, rules of defamation and the Council's Code of Conduct. To assist with managing of the chat function, agenda items will appear to act as markers. The members of the Local Plan Subcommittee are: the Chairman is Councillor Gabrielle Spray. The remaining members are David Bebb, Vice Chairman, James Abbott, Kevin Bowers, Graham Butland, James Coldridge, Tom Cunningham, Tony Everard, Patrick Horner, David Hume, Jenny Sandon and Justin Wrench. There are officers in attendance for these meetings, and these include Emma Goodins, Alex Evans. There is a governance officer for this meeting, Alison Webb, who will be taking the meeting minutes, and I am the meeting facilitator. Tonight we have apologies from Jenny Sandham, but I can confirm that with the remaining membership, this meeting is quora and can proceed. Chairman, I now hand the meeting over to you. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman, Councillor Everard has just joined the meeting.
Chairman, with your permission, can I just test his connections?
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Everard, could we just test your connection to the meeting, please?
Yeah, thank you, Emma. Yeah.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, good. Thank you very much, Emma. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Local Plan Subcommittee. Welcome to councillors and also to anyone watching us via YouTube. I just want to go a tiny bit off script just for a few seconds to say I particularly appreciate all councillors and officers joining us this evening, especially those who have additional responsibilities. I think we're feeling a little bit more sombre this evening because the district has moved into Tier 3 and there's quite a lot going on, but appreciate everybody being here on this meeting. I will take silence as assent when I'm just asking for agreement for something. Otherwise, if everybody could use the chat function just for questions. And apologies for absence. We've mentioned Councillor Mrs. Sandham. Is everybody else with us? I'm not sure if Councillor Wrench is here. Is he, Emma?
Councillor Wrench has not joined the meeting yet, Chairman.
No. Okay, fine. All right. Right, so that's apologies. Declarations of interest. Members, does anyone have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest that they wish to declare this evening? Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I declare an MPI in respect of item 5, local development scheme, as a member of Essex County Council who have prepared a number of documents which are referred to in this item.
Fine, thank you very much. Anyone else? I'm not seeing anything.
I better declare the
Oh,
same, Madam
yes.
Chairman, as a member of the County Council.
Fine, thank you, Councillor Abbott. No, I don't think anybody else has. Okay, fine. Right, item 3, previous minutes. Members, the minutes of the 17th of September 2020 were made available. I will take silence as assent unless anybody has any issues with a wish to raise. Not seeing anything, so I will take it that those minutes are approved. Item 4, public question time. We have nobody registered to speak. So we move on to item 5 on the agenda, Local Development Scheme 2021 to 2023, which is set out on pages 5 to 26 of your agenda. And can I please invite Alex Evans, Planning Policy Officer, to introduce and set out the report. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good evening, members. Item number 5 on the agenda this evening is the Local Development Scheme, or LDS. The Council is required by legislation to prepare an LDS and keep it up to date. Its main purpose is to set out a rolling programme for the preparation of planning documents that will form the local authority's development plan and planning guidance. The LDS before members this evening covers the period of 2021 to 2023 and will replace the previous version, which was approved in January 2019. Hopefully members have had a chance to read the LDS, so I'm not intending to go through it in huge detail, but instead pick out some of the key changes from the previous version. These changes include an update to the local plan timetable following the Section 1 examination. Emma will be picking this up in more detail in the next item of the agenda. Removal of references to the garden community development plan documents to reflect the Section 1 inspector's modifications. The supplementary planning documents section has been amended to reflect that Essex Coastal Recreational Disturbance Avoidance and Mitigation Strategy, or RAMS SBD, has been adopted. It has also been amended to reflect that changes to the existing LDS, as well as a number of additional LDSs, are being considered, and these will be set out in more detail within a future version of the LDS. The information on the evidence-based documents has been reviewed to reflect any additions, updates or changes. An update has been made to neighbourhood planning activities, which can be seen in the table below paragraph 5.3 on page 19 of the agenda. This includes that 3 neighbourhood plans have now been made, which are Bradwell and Patterswick, Hatfield, Peville and Cressing. 3 new neighbourhood plan areas have also been designated and are able to start work on their draft plans. These are Earlscoen, Great Bardfield and Toppersfield. A number of other neighbourhood plan activities, a number of other neighbourhood planning groups have also made progress on their plans, and this can be seen in the table. There is an error in this table relating to the Fearing Neighbourhood Plan. They have completed their Regulation 14 consultation earlier in the year. So instead of saying at the stage preparation of draft plan, it should read working towards Regulation 15 consultation. So thank you to Fearing Parish Council for pointing that out, and apologies for the error. The final change I was just going to mention is in relation to Section 8 on resources and risk, and that's been updated to reflect the current pandemic, which I'm sure comes to no surprise. So the recommendation as set out on pages 5 and 8 of the agenda is that the local development scheme for 2021 to 23 be approved, including that correction to the stage of the Fearing Neighbourhood Plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. Would anybody like to speak? Anybody have a question on this at all? Yes, Councillor Abbott, I think you were first, and then Councillor Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman, and can I thank the officer for his presentation and all the work that's gone into updating this. Obviously something we have to do as a council. I think for me the most striking thing is the legacy of development management policies we now have, which is sort of like a snowball going downhill, over many years, and how much we now need to get Section 2 of the local plan complete so that we have a fresh set of development management policies to refer to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Bowers.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, just in relation to the neighbourhood planning part of this. Now, my understanding from what you were saying, Alex, is that it's just an update on the activities. So that's correct. So in regards to the documentation and all that kind of information that's required and gone through and that kind of thing, I'm presuming that there's no amendments in that regard, or nothing's liable to change, and it doesn't actually affect the actual robustness of the planning that the local areas are doing. I just wanted to double check that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, do you want to respond to that?
No, so the LDS is just providing an update on what stage the local, so the neighbourhood plans are at. So which regulation they're working towards, etc. It doesn't sort of set a framework or anything, or for those neighbourhood plans in terms of any additional requirements or anything they have to do. It's simply just letting members of the public and the development industry and everyone else know simply what stage they're at, just for context. And obviously all that information is available on the website as well and via the neighbourhood planning groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Not seeing anybody else indicating that they wish to speak. So members, the recommendation is set out on page 5 of your agenda that the Local Development Scheme 21 to 2023 be approved. Could I have somebody to move that, please? Councillor Butland, and a seconder, please.
Second, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Bowers, I think you got in first. All right, I will take a vote on this. I'm just going to call out everybody's names, and if you could just say for, against, or abstain, please. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Bebb.
For.
Councillor Bowers.
For.
Councillor Butland.
For.
Councillor Coleridge.
For.
Councillor Cunningham.
For.
Councillor Everard.
For.
Councillor Horner.
For.
Councillor Hume.
For.
Councillor Wrench. Oh, right. Okay, so I've just seen a message on the chat function from Emma. So I believe we've received apologies from Councillor Wrench. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman, I do apologise for the spelling in the chat message. but
That's fine.
We've had apologies.
That's fine. I think he's had, like some people, quite a lot to deal with today. Right, fine, that is approved. We will move on to item 6, which is local plan examination process update. Now, this was going to be a very, very brief report from Emma Goodings. I don't know that it's going to be massively long, but there's certainly a bit more to say. It's a tiny bit more exciting since we heard from the inspector on Friday. So I'll pass over to Emma to update us. Emma.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Yeah, so as Councillor Spray said, this report was to provide you an update into the Section 1 examination, and obviously significant progress has been made since the publication of this report. So I'll also be referring to the report in front of you and also the final inspector's report, which you should have all received via email on Thursday and which is also available on the website. So during our last meeting, we were out for consultation on the main modifications of the Section 1 local plan. These proposed main modifications were the inspector's proposed changes to the plan, and we also had to consult on subsequent changes which were required to the supporting sustainability appraisal and the habitats regulation assessment. So this consultation was completed on the 9th of October this year. In total, to the Section 1 modifications, we had 382 comments from 117 different organisations and groups. And obviously from members of the public, from a range of stakeholders, and from agents and landowners. All these comments were processed and were placed on the examination portal, so everybody can see them and read them in full, and they were also, of course, passed to the inspector for him to consider. We then had a further 6 comments on the updated habitats regulation assessment and a further 15 comments on the sustainability appraisal. Again, these were received from a range of parties and members of the public. They were also published in full on the consultation portal for both members and members of the public to read. So at a similar time to that consultation, as you will know, the inspector also invited comments on the 2018 household population projections, and those were sent directly to him. So rather than being part of the consultation portal, which people could submit via the council, they were sent to the inspector directly via the programme officer. This consultation period closed a week later than the consultation on the main modifications, and once the inspector had received all those comments, he then sent them on to the local planning authorities to publish on the examination website. You'll see that there are 59 comments as PDFs, again from a various range of groups and numbers of stakeholders, which are added to the examination website and therefore available for everyone to read and look at if they wish to. So following on from this process, the inspector then had all the information that he had requested and asked for, and it was for him to decide whether he wanted any further information or whether he was going to go ahead and write his final report. As we know now, the decision was for him to write his final report, and this report was published on Thursday evening. It is available, as I say, on the examination website on behalf of the 3 authorities, and also all members will have received it in an email. The report, I hope, is fairly self-explanatory, but I wanted to highlight some of the key points within the report. So if I just go through the report in order and just fairly briefly, first of all, in paragraph 16 of the report, the inspector confirms that the duty to cooperate has been met. And in paragraph 29, he goes on to confirm that the local plan has met all relevant legal requirements. That includes legal requirements around the preparation of a sustainability appraisal, of a habitats regulation assessment, having considered issues of climate change, and also on consultation. The inspector then spends the bulk of his report considering the issues of soundness of the local plan, and in there he refers to both work within this report, but also he refers to previous letters that he has sent us following hearing sessions and their appendix to his main report. So first of all, in relation to the overall housing numbers, the plan in the plan, the inspector considers the most recent issues with regards to the 2018 projections. For Braintree, he considers those within paragraphs 38 to 49 of the report. He notes in paragraph 44 that he considers that the 2018 population projections do not provide a reliable basis for assessing Braintree's housing requirements. He also then goes on to consider the higher mortality rates, which account for an annual average of 92 fewer households being formed in the district. However, he then comes to the conclusion in paragraph 48 that he does not regard this as a sufficiently meaningful change to justify the considerable delay to plan making that would occur if the housing requirement were to be reviewed. So essentially what he has concluded is that the housing requirement in the submitted plan is the one that he considers sound. That is also the case for Tendring and Colchester. In paragraph 68 to 74, he then goes on to consider employment figures, and he concludes at the end of that section that subject to his modifications, the policy effectively sets out that those requirements can be met. In terms of the garden communities at west of Braintree and Colchester-Braintree borders, the inspector refers to his previous conclusions in his letter, i.e. DO22, and these remain unchanged. This includes, of course, the deletion of the policies on the 2 garden communities and their reference within the maps. So paragraphs 77 to 104 then go on to consider the policies in relation to SP7 and SP8 on the Tendring Colchester Borders garden community and the modifications that are being proposed as part of it. Paragraph 104 concludes that the plan is justified and effective policy framework for the delivery of the Tendring Colchester Borders garden community, enabling the delivery of sustainable development in accordance with national policy. And I am reading bits and pieces of his report out just so that we've got the full quote that the inspector has given us. In paragraph 115, subject to a few modifications, the inspector considers that the plan's vision, strategic objectives and spatial strategy are justified, effective and consistent with national policy. And in paragraph 126, again, subject to modifications, the inspector concludes that the plan's policies on the presumption in favour of sustainable development, on infrastructure and connectivity and on place shaping principles can be found sound. And finally, of course, the words that we have been waiting to hear in the conclusion on paragraph 128, that with the recommended main modifications, the plan satisfies the requirements of the Act and can be found sound. So members, we've only had this report for a couple of days now, but in terms of the next steps, just to take you through those, what we'll be looking at is to provide you with the final version of the Section 1 local plan. So this will be a version of the Section local plan with the inspector's modifications within them, and you'll see that they were in a table attached to his report. But we also need to make consequential changes, minor changes to the supporting text to the policies within the plan, which are within our gift to do so. They don't have to be recommended by the inspector. So we'll be preparing a final version of the local plan that has all those changes incorporated into it. And we hope to be able to provide that to members, if not before Christmas, then just after Christmas. We're then also working with the Section 2 examiners to get a date in the diary for the hearing sessions on Section 2, and we very much hope they'll be as early as possible within early 2021. But of course, we will we are liaising with them and with our various consultants and barristers who will be representing us during that examination, and we will get those dates to members as soon as possible. So the recommendation in the report and the recommendation essentially remains unchanged, which is to note the contents of the report, but happy to take any questions that any members have on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emma. And I think I probably speak for everybody that we are very pleased, very relieved to have had the final report from the inspector, that we can actually find Section 1 sound, and we can all fairly soon, to be hoped, move forward to the examination of Section 2. I have some members wishing to speak, but before I do that, my apologies, very remiss of me. We have some councillors who are new to this local plan subcommittee, not new councillors, but new to the committee, and I omitted to welcome them at the start of the meeting. So Councillors Abbott, Councillor Coleridge, who are here this evening, and Councillor Mrs Sandham, who's sent apologies, but you know, I'm sure will be with us on another occasion. Welcome to the committee, and sorry I omitted to do that at the start. Right, first member wishing to speak, Councillor Everard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I'd just like to add that Emma and her crew have done a wonderful job, so much to do, so much to catch up on. But my question is, how long will it be before we can gain meaningful control of our planning function? And just leading up to another question, we have been thwarted by changing government policies, thwarted by the loss of our proposed garden communities in our Section 1 submission, thwarted by unscrupulous speculators and developers in pushing for completely inappropriate housing developments by exploiting the loophole of our varying borderline supply of houses, and also to say it was a tragedy that we lost our concept of garden communities, whereby we would have had complete control of quality, supply to needs, phasing over a number of years with supporting industry, infrastructure, with many other benefits, and the best thing, stopping urban sprawl and inappropriate development. My ward and area, is there any way we can introduce control features associated with the garden communities into the new plan? That is, can we build? My ward and an area have been adversely affected more than most with inappropriate development, planned development and urban sprawl. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Everard. Emma, do you have any responses you'd like to make to those points?
I think just in terms of the timing, so the weight that which we can afford to the plan increases as it goes through the process. So obviously the section 1 has reached a new stage, and therefore the weight that we can give to it will be greater. Obviously that's not the same as having the fully completed adopted local plan as a whole, which we hope will be completed depending on the timetable, obviously, you know, perhaps autumn next year as the final stages. So we're moving in the right direction in terms of being able to give full weight to the local plan, but we are still some months away from it. And then in terms of the protections, apart from the protection of the local plan as a whole, I'm not sure there is anything in particular that we can do. Obviously, we've had the consultation on the white paper, the government's proposed changes, and within there, one of the proposed changes was areas of protection, it called them, which was essentially areas that would be designated for no development, and then areas which were designated for development. So if those, if that white paper was to carry forward, and I think the government's updated. The minister has been answering questions today, I think, and they're hoping that they would be able to complete the process of that within this parliament, which is quite ambitious. I think he accepted, but is possible. So within a couple of years, we may be working on a new sort of local plan world where there are different things that we're able to do. But at this stage, I think it's I don't think there's anything more that we can do apart from sort of move forward with the local plan and get it in place.
Right, thank you, Emma. Does that answer, or at least give you some hope, Councillor Everard?
Give me some hope.
Yes, I know it's difficult. All right, Councillor Abbott, I have you next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you for your welcome. Obviously, I've spoken many times at Local Plan Committee, but this is my first time as a member. I won't refer to the tent analogy, but I think some members will be aware of it. The local plan inspector's conclusions are actually very welcome, and that's the first time I think I've been able to say that in terms of you know, hopefully a cross-party position that we are now much closer to actually finishing this off within hopefully a year. I do have a question at the end of what I'm going to say, by the way. It's not provided everybody with everything they wanted, and I know there are people east of Colchester who aren't too pleased about what's being proposed there. But I'd just like to say that this has always been about evidence. A lot of people have said a lot of things, and some things unfortunate have been said, but this has always been about evidence. And personally, I feel vindicated that myself and colleagues have consistently said that for better or for worse, the evidence was not there to support the level of ambition on the garden communities that was being proposed. And that doesn't just apply to the 3 for the NEAs, of course it applies to the cluster of garden communities proposed by Uttlesford, which were also thrown out. And right from the start, we said the evidence simply wasn't there to back them up. That said, we now obviously do need to move forward and hopefully get this section 2 done as quickly as possible. And as I said for the previous item, that includes having a fresh suite of development management policies, as well as the allocations. And I understand from what we've been looking at up to now that we may not be far off the numbers we need because of all the consents that have been given, as well as the allocations in the draft plan. My question for officers is, some of us felt that the public consultation for section 1 was a rather confrontational affair, that we ended up being at loggerheads with, not through process, and you know, I'm not criticizing officers at all. They carried out the process very well, but through the way in which communities felt they weren't being listened to. So in terms of public consultation on section 2, could officers say what the milestones for that might be, albeit that we don't yet have a start date for the first hearings? So the extent of public consultation and when they might take place, and hopefully from the administration and council's point of view, the extent to which we will be really listening to what local communities have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Very reasonable questions, I think. Emma.
Thank you. So in terms of the section 2, we're obviously in the control of the planning inspectorate, and they follow the procedural guidance for the examination of local plans, which I referenced within the report, I believe. Happy to send members a link to that. It has just been updated in the last couple of weeks, but that sets out all the different stages that the local plan examination has to go through. So at this point, what we are likely to see through the Section 2 examination is that at some point, once the hearing sessions are set, the inspectors will set a series of matters, issues and questions. That will essentially be their agendas for the hearing sessions, but also there's an opportunity, normally a 6-week sort of window, for them. So they put those matters, issues and questions out, and then people can respond to those. Members of the public or anyone who wishes to, the council obviously responds to them in detail. That gives the inspectors further clarifications on issues they may be seeking. It gives an idea of what they're thinking they want to discuss during the examination sessions. It's not an opportunity to repeat what you have previously said in consultations, because that will all be taken into account by the inspectors already, but it is a further opportunity to do that. Then when we come to the hearing sessions themselves, it is for the inspectors to decide who appears at those hearing sessions. So anyone who responded to the consultation previously will have been asked whether they felt like they wanted to appear at the examination hearings. It will then be for the inspectors to consider who they wish to appear, who they wish to hear from. This won't be everybody, and they always say that this does not mean that your comments, written comments, are taken into account just as much as if you were at the hearing sessions, but they may have particular questions or queries that they want to get from people. So that would be the involvement in Section 2. We are being told that at this stage they would be virtual hearings, so they will be. The likelihood is that they will be entirely virtual. This means it's likely that we will broadcast them as we are broadcasting this meeting on YouTube. So whilst people wouldn't be able to attend a physical hearing because there wouldn't be one, everybody will get the opportunity to listen and watch in on those hearings as they happen. And then it will be, again, a similar procedure to now. If the inspectors make modifications to the plan, which I'm sure that they will, then those will have a series of a 6-week normally public consultation on them, again directly back to the inspector. So that will be the usual process, but it will be for the inspectors to decide if they have additional things that they want to give people the opportunity to comment on, whether that be an updated evidence document or some national guidance changes that have come through. Then it will be for the inspectors to set those requirements out for us, and to do that essentially on behalf of the inspectors, and report back to the inspectors on those on any views that people had. So that's the sort of process that we're looking at, and public engagement process that we're looking at the moment. But that will be clarified hopefully by the Section 2 inspectors, when we get some detail as to the timetable and the process that they want to set for this examination.
Thank you, Emma. I know I'm right in saying I believe 2 inspectors have been appointed. That's for our Section 2, because they'll also be dealing with Colchester and tendering. But I don't think we know yet how that split is going to work, do we, in terms of workload?
No, we don't. We have had the inspectors have been appointed a little while, but obviously they've been waiting for the Section 1 inspector to reach his conclusions before they're able to move on in any meaningful sense with the Section 2 examination. So now that we've had that report in from Section 1, I would hope that we'll, if not before Christmas, I hope that we'll be hearing from them fairly early in January with a view to clarifying the process for all.
Yeah, thank you. And as far as dates are concerned, I think, Councillor Abbott, as soon as we know, we'll let you know. Hopefully we're looking at not too far into the new year. I think that's probably the best we can say on that, isn't it, Emma?
Yeah, I'll need to add that it's a requirement of the legislation that they give at least 6 weeks notice for hearing sessions, so it won't be shorter than 6 weeks from when we hear. Normally they do give longer, because there's various things that you need to sort out in order to get your hearing sessions going, so it may be that they give us slightly longer than that, but yeah, it will be at least 6 weeks from the time that they notify us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, can
Councillor
I
Abbott,
yes,
yes, do you
thank
want
you.
to come back?
Yes, just very briefly, just say I may be appearing again, so obviously it depends on whether I'm invited, but I'll have to take officers' advice about predetermination about being both on the LPC and appearing at the inquiry.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Right, I have Councillor Butland next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can I begin by first of all associating myself with the remarks of Councillor Everard about the work of Emma Goodings and her team throughout this long process that we've been through on Section 1. I also would like to pay tribute to Emma and all her team for the considerable, enormous amount of work that they have done. I'd also like to just associate myself also with some of the remarks that Councillor Abbott has made. Clearly, the inspector's report, as he points out, doesn't suit everyone. There are a number of people, as he rightly says, to the east of Colchester who are not very happy. And I think it's fair to say that there are a number of people in the Braintree district who are not very happy. But we are where we are, and those battles, if you like, are over for the time being. And what we really need now is to move, as Councillor Abbott said, to getting a Section 2. The question I have, though, is we have Section 1 now. The point is, when should we implement it and when should we adopt it? Because I understand that it might have significant ramifications for us as to whether we adopt right away or whether we leave the adoption. And my understanding is that we don't have to adopt it right away. I wonder if the officers have any advice for us in that respect.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Emma.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you for your kind words. And I think on behalf of the team, for current members of the Local Plan Subcommittee and those of us who've been on the journey over the last 4 years, I would like to thank members for all their support in reaching the stage that we've got to. We had some long meetings, we had some late meetings, but yeah, the Section 1 being found sound is a milestone. I think we've all been keen to reach. So in terms of the question itself around the Section 1 adoption, the letter from the inspector appears to leave that question to us. It says it's up to each of the local authorities as to whether they should adopt the local plan adopt the Section 1 local plan independently to the Section 2 local plan. We are currently seeking a QC's opinion on that for Braintree as to the pros and cons of that approach, and particularly, Councillor Butland, as you say, with regards to our housing land supply and the potential confusion that could bring with a Section 1 which has a housing figure in it, but a Section 2 which has all the allocations and a housing trajectory within it. So we are currently seeking that opinion. We are looking to have that before Christmas, but potentially it could just slip into after Christmas. And we've asked Michael Bedford QC, who helped represent us during the Section 1 examination, and who's therefore familiar with the district and the local planners to his views on that.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Butland, do you want to come back at all on that?
So, through you, Madam Chairman. So, are we saying, Emma, that we will need to take a decision sometime early in the new year as to whether we adopt Section 1 right away, or whether it would be in the interests of the district not to adopt it until such time as we had Section 2?
Yeah, absolutely. So as soon as we've got that advice, we'll be able to look at that advice internally as officers and then advise members as to the appropriate approach. We would like to do that as soon as possible so that we know where we are, whether we want to go ahead and adopt possibly at the first council meeting of the new year, or whether we want to hold off and adopt once we've got that Section 2 in place.
Right, thank you very much. Councillor Bebb. I've lost Councillor Bebb. Where is he?
Councillor Bebb, would you like to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on if you're able? You're currently you're muted, Councillor Bebb, at present.
Clicking the wrong one, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yep.
Sorry about that. I was distracted. Our key to progressing Section 2 will be whether we've got sufficient site allocations. And I think we're probably frustratingly quite near to a target, but the frustration might be that we're forced out to do a call for sites, which takes quite a long time, just to accumulate a few more site allocations. Now, I know we've lost a few, sadly, sadly we've lost a few appeals recently, which has probably topped up the numbers for the wrong reason. But I'm wondering whether you could give us some indication of where we are and whether we'll need to go out for calls for sites, please, because that could delay matters quite a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Bebb. Good question. Emma?
So it is a good question, and it's one of the questions that the Section 2 housing inspectors have already asked of us. They've asked us to produce a topic paper, essentially a paper answering a number of questions, one of which is updating the housing trajectory to the latest position. Obviously, the housing trajectory that we published with the 2017 plan was a moment in time in 2017, and we've had significant progress on many sites since then, which should be reflected in that trajectory. So we're just working on the final elements of that now, in terms of both the trajectory, so the supply over the whole plan period, and also the 5-year periods that the inspector will look at, because we need to show the inspector that we have a 5-year supply of housing as well as an overall housing supply. The interim findings of that are that we are over the minimum number. We're not far over, but we are just about over. So subject to, and we'll come back to members and Councillor Spray no doubt earlier on in the new year, but we are hoping that we'll be able to proceed on the basis of the sites that we already have in the mix, as you say, both those allocations and the sites that we've granted permission for, or the 1 or 2 that we've lost on appeal in the last few months.
Can I just come back? We're just over, which is good news. Does that include the buffer that we need?
Yes, so the buffer is a 20% buffer which we apply on the 5-year position. So we have to bring forward supply from earlier on in the we have to bring supply from later on in the plan period to earlier on to make sure that happens. In terms of the local plan itself, at the moment there is wording in the local plan which suggests that we should be 10% over. We've said 10% over for flexibility. We're not. Well, the final figures, we may be close to that, but we may need to look at reviewing that, given that the flexibility was in part because we had previously had our original OAN study had a higher figure in, and then it came down within the 2016 one, so we were worried that it was going to go up again. That doesn't appear to be the direction of travel on the population projection, so it may be that we just need to flex around the sort of overall local plan buffer. But we'll know that in more detail once we've got the final topic paper worked through. As you can appreciate, there's Kathy is busy working on an awful lot of complicated spreadsheets with hundreds of lines in them on all the different sites and permissions that we have in the district. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, but we are working through it as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Bebb, has that answered your question sufficiently?
Yes, I think sufficiently for now. Thank you.
Good. Certainly, I think if we don't have to go out for a call for sites, it would simplify matters, but I think we'll have to see how the numbers stack up in the new year. And I hope Kathy's going to have at least Christmas Day off, Boxing Day if she can. Right, I don't have anybody else indicating that they want to speak. So just to make absolutely sure, but if everybody has had their say, members, this report is just for noting, so no vote, no decision is necessary. And I will take silence as assent in noting the report, unless I see otherwise, which I don't. Right, that finishes that part of the agenda, but Emma had indicated that she just had couple of things or one item that she wanted to update us on. So Emma, can I just pass?
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Yes, really quickly, members, I just wanted to let you know, so if for those of you who were with us at the previous local plan subcommittee meeting, we updated you on the SCI, the Statement of Community Involvement, and there were temporary changes within that document which were due to expire in December. So since the publication of reports for this committee at the end of last week, we've had notification from government that temporary suspension of some of the requirements of having public documents available and deposit documents available has been extended to December next year. So we will look to bring back a further version of the report to you at the next meeting, just to clarify what that means in terms of the statement of community involvement. But also there may be some further changes to that, because we've had new government guidance on how we implement some of the new government processes for delivering planning permissions as well, which we'll take the opportunity to add into the table of how we consult on those as well. So yeah, there's a few bits and pieces, I'm afraid. So if it's okay with the chair, I'll be bringing the statement of community involvement back to the next committee again.
Fine, thank you very much, Emma. Thanks for that update. That then actually brings us to the close of business for this evening, for this meeting. There is no urgent business, so I can close the meeting at 6:45, I think, as near as. Thank you very much, members, for your attendance this evening. Thank you to those watching via the Council's YouTube channel, and I will now hand over to the meeting facilitator.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, before I ask the webcaster to terminate the broadcast on the Council's YouTube channel, please can I remind members that the Council retain performance data regarding your link to this meeting. This is held just in case we have a legal challenge. Webcasting officer, please can you confirm that the YouTube broadcast has stopped?